Welcome everybody to our March Soda Social edition, where today we are welcoming our panel and audience from all over Europe. So mini introduction from myself. My name's Oliver. I am based here in Dublin, Ireland, at the bottom of my garden in this lovely shed, and I am one of the many co-organisers we have for our Soda Social community. If I start with the housekeeping boring stuff first, so everybody who is joining the webinar, and I can see you all slowly coming in, all your cameras and microphones will automatically be off. You will see upon entry a Zoom poll, and I'd implore everybody to answer that, and we'll get some live results a little bit later on. As you can also see, this is being live recorded and also is being live streamed on our LinkedIn channel. The format of how we're going to play this out is an open Q&A, so I'm sure everyone, panel and audience, have been on plenty of Zooms recently, but within the chat function on Zoom is where we would absolutely love as many questions as possible from all our audience. So throughout, please pop them in there, and I will try my absolute best to answer and get you some answers from all of them. We'll run this till about 7 o'clock. Bang on 7 o'clock, we'll try our best to be on time, and then we're going to move to our networking event after. You should already have the new link for the networking event in your original invite. If you don't have that, oh, there we go, that was quick. If you don't have that, we'll put that in the chat near the end. But after the Q&A for an hour, we're going to move quickly into a networking event where we're all going to jump into groups of 3 and 4 and actually be able to hopefully meet some of the lovely panel and also meet some of the lovely audience that are here as well. Post-event, we will send out a white paper with all the content we will talk about here and any questions that we don't get to answer live. So really mini introduction into Soda Social for anybody who this is their first event. So our aim as a networking community is to empower and bring together a diverse community that represents the digital world we live in. We strive to innovate, educate, and inspire future leaders of technology. Once upon a time, we're an offline community. For the last 12 months, we've been very much an online community. Trying our best to bring together digital experts for networking, for knowledge sharing. It allows us and hopefully you to engage with everybody in your space, hopefully in a light-hearted way. Today, we're going to be doing a panel discussion. We range from panel discussions, talks, workshops, etc. Please follow all our LinkedIn Soda Social channels to see all our events over UK, Europe, and the US. Today, we are very lucky to partner with the amazing Code Institute, who have been a really good partner for both ways for Soda Social over the recent few years. And I'm going to let the wonderful Jane introduce herself, introduce Code Institute, and tell you a little bit more about them.
Thanks, Holly. And hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here. We've been really looking forward to this event for a while. And I'm certainly really keen to hear what all of our panelists are going to bring us through. Just to maybe introduce myself really quickly, my name is Jane, and I head up the Career Services in Code Institute. And the Code Institute, we're an online educator. And for anyone who isn't maybe familiar with our program, we're Europe's only online university accredited Stack Software Development Diploma. So it's quite a title, but essentially, really, what we're here to do is to be a participant, an active participant in addressing skills gap. And there are loads of things that we do within that. But I suppose one really important part of this is that our training is very flexible, but it also sits within a formal educational framework. And I think all of us, and any alumni that are here as well, I suppose would feel that this is really well designed for people who are career switchers. And certainly a lot of the people that we'd be working with through the program might be coming from non-traditional backgrounds and navigating their way into a tech environment. So look, from my position within Code Institute, from a careers objective, is that I'm really, really, really actively always trying to encourage our coders to be active participants in the tech industry from day one. You're a coder from day one. You join with us. It's code first policy always. And the software development industry is so unique and cool, and in just how active the community is within it, and how much participation is welcomed, how much conversation is shared. So certainly from a recruitment perspective, I would love to think that people can really contribute really heavily to their network, but also to their careers. This is really where it all happens, not on jobs boards. So hopefully this evening connections will be made, and you carry this for life. And just one thing before you move on to the panelists, it was funny because some of the early joiners there had filled out that little poll, and already people were seeing opportunity as one of the biggest challenges. So being in the right place at the right time. So evenings like this are brilliant events to help you be in the right place at the right time. So don't wait for a jobs board to find you, I suppose, is one of my biggest pieces of advice.
Okay, super. Thank you ever so much for that. And there's an obvious reason why we wanted to partner with Code Institute on this particular topic, right? Because I'm sure everyone who's here has seen the title. We labeled it after having I think we had 10 different titles at one point where we tried to narrow it down, but titled The Journey from Transforming Software Engineers into Leaders. So if hopefully we're going to get into what that timeline looks like, or what that career path looks like. And obviously anybody who's joining us from Code Institute or pre-Code Institute who wants to get into software engineering, hopefully they'll learn more about actually once you're in the door, what is there and beyond. So yeah, thanks for being here. So yeah, I think from the meetup page, I think our audience for the panelists' benefit and for the audience's benefit is a really good mix of budding engineers, current engineers, or leaders in their field that are hopefully here to share their wisdom. So enough about me, really. It's not about me. We have 4 lovely panelists that have taken up their evening to be here. So thank you ever so much. And I'm going to allow them all to do a mini introduction and tell you all about themselves. So yeah, Nikita, I'll let you start if that's okay.
So hey everyone, really happy to be here. I'm Nikita. So probably one interesting thing to know is I'm a career changer myself. So I haven't always been a developer. Before that, I worked for about 5-6 years in management consulting. It's based over in London. Went through lots of different industries, but effectively coding kind of was always my passion, my interest area. And even changing to coding was a chance for me to upskill and for me to kind of carve out my own career path. So skilled up, completed the Code Institute course, liked it so much that I joined what was a really, really small team at that time, and became the company's first ever tutor. So at that stage, we were shifting from kind of classroom based to fully online to reach international students. And it was quite intimidating coming in. So you were doing a bit of development, but you're also tutoring multiple people online at any one time. So what I started to do was start to kind of build up the processes, leverage automation any way that I could to kind of save time and build up a team around that. Then moved into a team lead position, and there was lots of kind of fun stuff going on. Eventually I kind of branched off, and there was another team formed called the platform team, which has gone into the engineering team today. So I was a developer full-time in that for a while, and today I'm a technical program manager.
Nikita, thank you so much. Deirdre?
Hiya, my name is Deirdre, and hello everybody. I started with a software development degree and went to work for EMC in Cork. Was there for 6 years, focused on kind of UI development. Then I moved to a company called Ovaro in Sheffield in the UK, and was more full stack there, both server side and UI. Senior software engineer there, then became technical lead / kind of junior PM on a customer facing project, and then moved into delivery management, line management, working with customers, analyzing requirements, but also, working with developers and trying to enhance their skills, figure out how we can deliver what we signed up for. And then tomorrow I start as an engineering manager at in Stanley.
Thank you so much. Sheffield, lovely place. That is a very well spent 3 years of my life once upon a time, Deirdre. So,
15 years of mine. So it is a good place.
Thank you for being here, John.
Hey everybody. My name's John. Delighted to be here today. So, started off in DIT 12 years ago, studied a degree in business computing, joined a company called MTT, Mobile Travel Technologies, when they were very, very small as a graduate, learned from a lot of amazing people in there, soon jumped to senior, and then started managing a couple of really big projects for them. So moved into technical lead, and then 5 years ago, when they got acquired, I moved on. So I joined a company called Forest. I joined as a senior engineer there, really small engineering team, and a really small company compared to even what MTT was at the time. So senior engineer in Forest, then jumped to dev manager, running the group in there. After a couple of years up to director level, and now I'm CTO. So just a little bit about Forest. So we're salon software in the hair and beauty industry. So we do everything that basically helps a small business to run and operate their salon and to grow it. I joined when there was about 1,500 salons. There's 7,000 now, seven and a half. And to give you an idea of that scale, that's about 9,000 managers or owners. There's about 100,000 beauty professionals using the platform every day. And we would touch about 40 million consumers, end users, booking, paying through appointments. And that system would power about 3+ billion. There's a lot of money going through hair and beauty systems, even with lockdowns. So over the last year, we've been incredibly lucky that I guess what's happened is that people have really got behind how important the local salon is to the community and to people, and have been really supportive. We operate in many different countries, so some of the countries have been in lockdown and others haven't, so we've been able to kind of get through that and come out stronger, I would say, the other end. So delighted to be here today and share some experiences. To give you an idea of the team size, when I joined it was 4. There's 55 in product development now, so we've been through a lot of growing pains and scaling pains, and lots of lessons learned along the way.
Cheers, John. I think, I don't know about for other countries, but I know here in Ireland, talking about salons and hairdressers is a touchy subject, and I know that's the first place I'm going to be going. May the 4th, I think, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, thank you ever so much for being here. And last but not least, Jessie.
Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here. So my name is Jessie. I'm currently engineering manager at Ecosia. And before that, in fact, I started my career in computer science. I studied computer science and I was programming. But after my studies, I decided to switch to quality assurance in software, because I was very, very detail oriented, and I really liked the fact that I could use my technical knowledge at the service of the user directly and be their advocate inside the development team. So that was really something that passionated me. And last year I decided to switch, and I joined Ecosia as engineering manager. And that was really a challenging change, coming from individual contributor to a management position. And it was the first time that the company had also managers. So we were also learning all together what my role would be and how I could better support the teams. And we grew a lot. In 1 year, I think we hired more than 10 new engineers. So a lot of learning in 1 year. And yeah, very happy to be able to share this experience with you.
Thank you so much, Jessie. Thank you so much. So, so yeah, we are very lucky, because even with a very snippet of the intros from everyone there, we hopefully the audience can see we've got a great diverse panel in terms of where people are in their career, where people have come from. Yeah, and hopefully the next 45 minutes, we will all learn something new. So yeah, welcome. Thank you ever so much for being here. So Nikita, I'm going to start with you. Actually, before I kick that bit off, just to really reiterate to the audience, please feel free at any point throughout this, throughout the next 45 minutes, is to ask as many questions as you like in the chat function. Direct it at a certain panelist, direct it at me, direct it as an open-ended question. The more questions, the better. Hopefully, we're here to answer your questions as well as conversate around a few topics. So, Nikita, starting with you, because obviously I love your background. Your story is super interesting. The more and more I partner with Code Institute, the more and more I get to speak to people like you, from a career change perspective, getting in software engineering, and now you're at that point where you are transitioning engineering to leadership, to taking on more responsibility. So so yeah, I'd love to find out more about that, and specifically the kind of challenges that comes with, in terms of that transition that you're in at the moment.
Yeah, sounds good. So I think it's probably important to talk about, so at any point during my career, I've always been so impatient that I don't really wait on kind of a career path to become clear. I tend to kind of carve out my own. So even as a management consultant, so actually one of the great things about that is you were dipping into lots of different industries. So at one point I was working with the NHS, then the police force, then global retailers. And you were typically called in because it was a challenging situation, and the client needed some help. So in that case, I kind of always looked for the projects that actually there would have been a great deal of uncertainty around, or there would have been some kind of complex problem to solve. And that kind of led me down a path of, okay, well, I'm starting to carve out my career here, and I would develop kind of my leadership skills, because you would be going into clients all the time and trying to understand difficult problems, trying to put a solution in place. And I think that's where my trigger for the career change, into coding came, is that I could only go so far with some of my management consulting skills. And I wanted to kind of unlock more opportunities with coding. And then equally, when I came into coding, I thought, oh yeah, great, this is great, I'm equipped with all these coding skills. But then I started, it's kind of like you find out more about the software development industry, and you see more opportunity there as well. And Code Institute was a great company for me to for me to join. Now it does come with its challenges. When you're working with a small company, you have to be really agile. There will be lots of growing pains along the way, but I had a great working relationship with my director at the time, and I had lots of flexibility in terms of kind of going ahead and taking responsibility for some of the projects that were ongoing. So that's kind of where I started to kind of carve out okay, well, if we want to build kind of our support function, we need to build out our tutoring processes, we need to leverage automation so we can reach more students. And then eventually what that started to turn into is, okay, we've kind of started to crack that problem. Now we want to delve into kind of another problem around kind of understanding completion rates and how can we get students to complete on time. And that's then when I started to get more into developing analytics dashboards, which opened up an opportunity into another team that was then developed, which was the platform team. So I think that for me has kind of always been a core theme throughout my career, is it's kind of don't wait on the career path, or don't wait on kind of someone to tell you these are the steps to take. It's really just about carving your own, and that's a really great way to kind of base your career around your interests and your strengths, and identifying which direction you want to grow in.
Yeah, definitely. I think that will be there's two things you mentioned there that will be running themes, I think, for the next 40 minutes. One of them being taking responsibility and taking ownership and being proactive. And then the other thing that I wanted to unpack was obviously the phrase leadership skills, right? So we talk about the soft skills that people either have, they desire, they want to learn. Actually, what are they? Like being a leader, I'm sure there's a long list of you'd see on a job description that what are those soft skills that means you can be a leader. And Deirdre, I know we spoke about some of those soft skills around communication, etc. And be interested to hear what your opinion is on what are the soft skills that you felt were important to you when going from engineering into management.
Communication is a massive one, and I think especially now that we're all kind of working remotely, it's really putting emphasis on how we communicate and what methods we communicate in. Things like, people respond in different ways. So when you're hosting a meeting, how do you do it? How do you get people to engage? And how do you make sure that you've heard from everyone, because not everyone will want to turn on their cameras or speak up, and how do you get that input from them? They might have something important to say, but how do you get it, without feeling like you're interrogating somebody and putting them on that spot? So, allowing them to, provide information afterwards might be useful. Then a kind of broader management things, you might be, doing a big change. So change management, I guess, a big change we've all had this year, as I've just said, is us all moving to working remotely. And, how do you support people? And some people will just naturally adapt what other people need, that, support or confidence, show them, it's okay to go on a Teams call or a Zoom call, and you can turn on your camera. And things like conflict resolution. I mean, hopefully you never have to use it, but there's always times when, there'll be a difference of opinion, and that's good. Not everybody's going to agree all the time, but it's how we kind of, respect each other and engage with each other and make sure people are heard, and then you figure out what the best solution or the way forward for, whatever the situation is.
Yeah, absolutely. So communication, change management, conflict resolution, being three of many soft skills I'm sure that we'd all love to possess, but three that you feel were relevant to you in your career path. From Nikita, Jesse, John, were there any other like soft skills that you feel you rank quite highly as important as in being a leader?
Yeah, so actually just picking up on what Deirdre said there about people will have different opinions and encouraging that. So I often find actually the best ideas come out of conversations sometimes when two people are disagreeing on a point, and actually then you have to really unpack the problem. For me, it's about encouraging open dialogue and making sure that people feel really comfortable to share their ideas, but also to challenge and kind of ask the sometimes uncomfortable question of, okay, but why are we working on this? What's the purpose of this? I just think that's massively important when you're leading a team, but even being an active member of a team as well, is facilitating that conversation where people feel confident to be honest about how things are actually going, be that going really well, or even more importantly, when things aren't going so well.
Another skill I think is important in my point of view is really listening. I'd say that's 80% of my work is listening, and really listening, not coming already with the solution, because it's something that we have tendency to do as human beings. When someone talks about their problem or about the disagreement there is in the team, you already want to solve the issue. But the truth is, if you really listen, you better understand what's the root cause. And it also what Nekta was saying about safety and feeling able to be transparent. If they know that you are listening, they will be your colleagues or your direct report, depending on which level you are, will feel more safe to share their struggles, if they fail also, I think it's very important to encourage, not encourage failure, that's not the proper way of saying it, but like saying that it's okay, we will always find a way to but because we learn from failure, but we need to be able to listen to people so they feel comfortable to say also when they fail, so we can support them. So yeah.
I think as well, to follow up, as well as listening, being able to reframe what you hear and repeat it back to the team or group. And even if you don't need to be a leader, anyone in the room to be able to share their understanding and actually bring that up so that you kind of have a very concise like idea of the feedback or the direction that you're going. It's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of those soft skills you mentioned, and Deirdre, the conflict resolution. So we talk about listening, talk about feedback, talk about reframing. I think it's consciously not being confrontational with doing those things, right? You sometimes think of conflict and you think of confrontational, but the skill there, if you are an engineer and you're looking to become a leader, it's actually being able to have those conversations without them being confrontational. You can reframe, you can listen, you can have conversations that don't have to be confrontational. So yeah, and importantly, like Nikita says, is that if you feel those conversations need to be had, no matter where you are in your career as an engineer, it's having those conversations. Like, don't not have those conversations because you feel like you're not in the right place to do so, or X, Y, Z. So yeah, it's,
also don't have them in the middle of the office.
Yeah, exactly.
Go find an environment that kind of takes you away and is better and makes people more comfortable and open and really figuring out what, as you know, Jesse was saying, finding out the facts and trying keeping emotion out of it is very important. And so sometimes you might yourself have to go away and have 5 minutes to go, right, okay, I can go back in now and deal with something. But you know, we talked about celebrating failures, but it's also important to celebrate the wins, the successes. I think as engineers, we're very much, you know, we're problem solvers. And if you're on a difficult project, we finish one problem, great, what's the next problem? But, you know, sometimes we don't always stop and say, actually, pat each other pat yourselves on the back now, because we're not allowed any social contact. But, you know, really kind of saying, yeah, we actually did a good job. What do we learn from that? How we can apply that going forward? And from, you know, our failures or things that haven't gone as well, how do we improve? How do we make things better?
Yeah, love that. I think, John, we spoke before, and I guess it's important to mention as early as possible that we should never, and this webinar and in general should never be presumptuous that everybody on this call wants to be an engineer manager, everyone wants to be a CTO, and obviously your career path would be very admirable to a lot of people in terms of being an engineer, senior engineer, managing director, CTO and stuff. But yeah, it's important to know that if that's not the path you want, there are plenty of other paths. In the position you're in now as CTO, we talked about how you want to, from a top down, create that vision for everybody that there are other ways to get to where you want to be. You don't have to be a manager.
Totally. I think like it's really important to mention, you know, to be a leader, you don't have to manage people, and you shouldn't feel that obligation that you must be a line manager or anything like that. You know, I think it's really important that like the best technical people, their focus should be on like evangelizing the technology stack, the future, the direction, and they can add like thought leadership. And that doesn't mean they have to be their line manager or guide someone's career to be that leader. But I think it's a really important distinction. Something else as well, I would say to maybe like growing software engineers is, you know, they feel like as well that I need to be a manager. I need people and responsibilities to grow. And it's not about that at all. I think it's about like ownership. It's about really being comfortable in your own skin and in the role you're in, and really, you know, focusing on what energizes you. And I think like as you grow in your career, you can definitely swing on the pendulum and maybe see if you like it or not. There's a great blog post from Charlie Majors I'd definitely recommend reading. I'll share it on, but it talks about the pendulum of going into engineering management or technical leadership and maybe swinging over to people management side and swinging back. And that's totally fine, because it'll definitely make you a stronger IC and a stronger individual contributor, but also you can maybe go down the management track. So I think really important for people not to think that, yeah, your salary bracket or your trajectory is limited by the amount of people you manage. It's definitely not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So John, we had a very practical question in the chat, which I'll go to now from Lucy Wilson, actually, talking about when growing a development team, at what stage, if any, would you subdivide the team into smaller teams, and do you feel having a clear role title is important, i.e. junior, mid, senior, etc.?
It's gone spent over the last 3 years. That's basically been my job, is org structure, ownership areas. We're at 9 at the moment, so definitely the 2 pizza rule is a pretty good one to go by. If the team is if you can't fill everybody's belly with 2 pizzas, then you need to split it up. So that's an Amazon one, definitely not mine. So I think, look, for us, we were at about 9 engineers, and we'd go to a backlog and there'd be too many people in it, and people wouldn't be engaged because they didn't know would they be working on that sort of thing or not. So it came down to strategy, company strategy, and what we need to execute on, product strategy as well. How are we going to divide and conquer? Past 5 engineers in your team, you really need to look at how to divide up workload or logical domain areas of your product. At the same time, then you introduce the need for some level of roles, responsibilities, and expected behaviors of different people. So you need a really good a good career ladder for people. So you have to, and I would definitely recommend working with the people in your team if you're at this point with them. What is a junior? What do we expect from a senior? What is that for our engineering culture? What does that mean? And what do we expect from people? Definitely do not try to split your team based on technology stack. You need to have T-shaped engineers. So people who are specialists in certain areas, but are comfortable going up and down the stack. Because you don't want to lose empowerment. The teams need to be empowered to be able to achieve company strategy or the team's goals without having to go to other people and pulling and throwing about who's working where. So the teams need to be empowered and capable of owning the work that they deliver, that they're responsible for. So I think, don't over optimize too early, but don't leave it too late because we create an awful mess. So I hope you answered the question.
Yes, I appreciate that, John.
I want to add on the importance of having junior, mid, senior. I agree that this is something that should be decided inside the team. That's literally what we did at Ecosia. We now have a growth framework, which has been discussed during a workshop with the whole developers team, because they are the one who knows how the culture they want to see and how they want to see themselves grow inside the company. So having them deciding what for them means being a junior, what are the expectations also for the junior or for mid-level or a senior. It also gives a guidance for everyone who joined the company to know that first they will be treated fairly because everyone is submitted to the same expectation. And it's, again, not something that came from the top, but really from the developer themselves. And the other point is also for them knowing where they can grow and what are the characteristics they need to work on if they want to grow in their career. And I think that's very important, even for small teams, because whoever wants to join a company also wants to grow. And it's important to know where, how, and what will be the support you will get from your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And staying with you, Jesse, on that topic then, because your career path to date will be very, very interesting to the audience, because for a couple of reasons. One, you haven't come from software engineering, you've come from QA engineering, which we'll talk about, and then also you made that conscious effort, and Nikita talked about the proactiveness. You made that conscious effort after having a successful career in QA, that actually no, my skills and my ambitions now are within management and leadership, and you took that step to go and find that role. So it'd be good to unpack that a little bit from your perspective on the QA background, and then how you kind of went to go and find that role that you really wanted.
Sure. So as QA, I really love being QA. I really loved being at this crossroad of tech, business, user. That was really something which was rewarding. But as individual contributor, I could see that a lot of time my manager had absolutely no idea how to grow people in my career, and that was very blocking for myself because I wanted to have a higher impact. I could see in my teams that I was supporting developers, because when you're QA, you are supporting developer becoming better developers by making them think about the user at the end, thinking of scenarios that they haven't thought about, that they start to implement in advance, even before I have to test them. That was really rewarding. And I really wanted to have more impact, not just in the QA sphere, but really impacting also developers. And after, so yeah, my career is a bit, I took a year hiatus because I did a burnout because of work, and I realized that I needed to change what I wanted to do with my life. And during this year hiatus, I thought, what I wanted to do with my life. And I took the conscious decision to go to engineering management because I realized that I really, really liked empowering others. And that was above everything else, that was really something that was motivating me. And the fact is, I'm a Black woman in tech, and I also endured sexism, racism, and I wanted to make sure that other people, at least working with me, would not have to experience that either. So I wanted to give to others what I not necessarily got myself. So that was also one of the reasons I decided to make that move. So when I set my mind into that, I just apply to every engineering manager position to company that made sense to me as well. And I just kept doing that. And it's easy. I was lucky. I'm totally in a lucky position. I have a partner who was able to help me when I went out of my sorry, I don't have the word in English.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly. So he was supporting me, and he was really pushing me to continue to look for that, because he knew that it was really something that I was passionate about. And yeah, and the thing is, when you come from QA, as I was saying, you're between development. So I also came with a technical background, business, user advocate, UX experience. Also, this is very key in QA as well. And I could translate all this knowledge that I got for being manager, and that's what I was selling basically when I was applying.
I love it. I think it's a great tangible story to say for anybody in the audience that is fearful that their CV doesn't say team leader, or their CV doesn't say I managed a team. Because the soft skills that you mentioned, the empowerment, listening you spoke about, you were obviously able to articulate that way in an interview process, that actually they are relevant skills to do the role you're doing now. So I think it's a great story that hopefully empowers some of the audience here today, and if that's the route they want to go down, and especially if there's people in here that aren't software engineers, they're in other areas of the field of digital and tech, but that's still their goal. Like, we don't want to create that that bias that we believe the best engineer in the room is going to be the CTO. So yeah, I love that story. Thank you for sharing, Jesse. And Nikita, it was the proactiveness that Jesse mentioned there is obviously something we spoke about at the start, and actually putting your best foot forward, putting your hand up, don't asking, doing. And yeah, I know it's a big thing for you. I just wondered about any other examples from your career of where you've been like, okay, I'm going to do this with the foresight of how you wanted it to affect your career.
Yeah, I mean, in my career, I tend to gravitate towards things that I'm really interested in. And just as an example, so back when, probably in about my first year as a developer at Insitute, so one of the things was, when you'd speak to people, I don't want to go into too much technical detail on it, but when you speak to people, there was one thing that just everyone, when you would just get that release of energy from people when they just hated the thing that was currently in play. It was overly manual, it took too much time, it wasn't enjoyable for anyone. And so you start to hear this, and that started to form as a bit of a problem statement in my head. And so what I started to go off and do was just prototype a small application and automate some of those kind of boring, repetitive tasks, freeing up people's time. And that, I'm really proud to say, has kind of grown into its kind of own product now. And so it was really old manual processes that used to take months to get through. So started building a small prototype and kind of then sharing it with people and saying, hey, what do you think? Could this save you time? Could this help us out? And I think in that sense, because I was kind of prototyping and showing it off to people, when it came to actually then a chat about changing my role to take on more responsibility, because I was already doing it, it was kind of an easy conversation to have. And it was a really nice segue into kind of crafting my role into something that I was interested in working on. So I would just say for anyone out there that's kind of, sometimes the opportunities aren't crystal clear, but even having a few conversations with people and kind of picking up and sparking ideas, it's massively powerful. Excuse me, if you can go to someone and show them a small demo or a small prototype of, hey, I knocked this together, kind of thinking, what do you think? Get some feedback on that and start iterating. It's incredible how that can actually develop. And it's a massive opportunity for you to develop your relationships, develop your skills. And I think it's a much more effective way than kind of just kind of sitting back and waiting for a role or an opportunity to come up. It's just carve out your own.
I thought that a little bit, just what Nikita was saying is like, act and do the job before you're given it almost, and look for those opportunities. Ask, internally, you see a problem or something that's coming up, ask to be involved, ask for some, maybe reach out to maybe a sponsor, someone that can actually give you the opportunity. So powerful.
Then if you want to get into becoming a team lead or into leadership, talk to your manager, say it's something you're interested in doing. Are there opportunities, to mentor, to coach people, to, host or lead a meeting or a workshop and gain experience that way, and kind of take yourself out of your comfort zone, push yourself a bit, but little by little, and you build up the skills that way.
Yeah, glue work is very, very important. That you learn a lot of things with that. I think there is a book that I can only recommend, which is called The Manager's Path by Camille Fournier, and it explains from different level how you can build the skills to become a manager. And it starts with you as individual contributor, how you can talk to your manager to get the opportunity that you want, and how you can also be proactive in some of your actions to gain the experience that you need. I really recommend this book. It was very, very key for me when I made the transition.
Lovely. Yeah, we'll get that in the white paper, Jessie. Thank you. So yeah, running the theme from all four of you there. You're not going to get very unlikely you're going to get an email in your inbox asking you to apply for the engineering manager position tomorrow, right? There's always in everything we talk about here the proactiveness of going the extra mile, asking the question, and yeah, no, thank you for all of that. John, from in the role you're in now, then. We talked before about obviously culture, inclusivity, and actually the importance of that in terms of the relationships to your career path. So, and maybe the incorrect assumption that your job title or that kind of stuff is the most important thing to get you where you want to be. And I know we spoke about your story about how actually there was a step back at one point in your career to make sure that you ended up where you wanted to be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get lured into the big names, and particularly when they're starting off, I want to work at Amazon or Facebook or whatever. But what ends up happening is they get kind of pigeonholed into areas or of the business or teams that might not be able to give them those stretch opportunities. And I feel like when you're looking for a role, it's really important to think about the growth and the trajectory and the culture of the company and like how happy you will be in there and the impact you can have. A bit like compounding interest, you maybe you go into a lower position or some step back to move 2-3 steps forward. And like just for me at Forest, like I'll be honest, like we were really small and tech wasn't amazing, so we had a lot of work to do to kind of figure things out, scale the platform. We had to rebuild the team and stuff. So there was no mature org chart. There was nothing like that figured out. So I think like some people might have seen that as a why are you leaving this really cool travel company to be a senior engineer in a place? It's like, look, well, I really like what the vision the company's doing and the opportunities there. And I think some people maybe get a bit too drawn up into the titles or things like that. So I think it's really important to keep in mind, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think the argument, or not so much the argument, the conversation around being a software engineer, and I'm sure Jane, from the Code Institute perspective, all these graduates, and where do they go next? And there's that conversation of do you apply for Google on Grand Canal, or do you apply for the small software company around the corner? And everything's got the pros and cons, right? But you make a very good point that the pros in terms of the diversity, the access to different projects, and access to.
I'll give you an example. Like in Forest, one of our biggest feeders into other teams is actually our support team, because we get these amazing people in who are really passionate of different things, but they come into the business, they learn the product inside out, and they're maybe doing degrees or have really good interest, and they start maybe doing shadowing opportunities, or we bring them on little tours into teams. And some of the most successful people in the company have come from support. One of them runs our data team. One of them is one of our most experienced product managers. There's tons of examples. So I think, it's about like, maybe it's not the exact role you want as a grad or a software engineer, but it's the stepping stone into the right org. It's really important to think about.
Yeah, love that. And then Jesse, talking about the culture and the role you're in, and how that is important to your journey, right? Obviously, there's always more factors than yourself, but now you're in that engineering manager position, and you talked about the struggles and hurdles you've had from a culture, from an inclusivity position. What are the important things now that you want to impart on the team, and then all the engineers in the audience? What things should they be looking out from their managers or from their leaders to think, right, yeah, this is a good culture for me to be in to progress?
For me, what, like I was saying earlier, is really listening. Listening to people was key. I wish people would have listened to me also when I was facing issues, and making sure that they know that you're willing to support them in the struggle that they have. I think one of the key for me, at least in my team, is to make them realize that they are not just engineers, they are human beings, and they should be able to come literally entirely in their work. And it means that it's not because suddenly you are in front of your computer that suddenly you don't have kids, especially in COVID situation where lots of parents have to have their kids at home. So being able to be flexible with the challenges that life are throwing at each other. And I think that really is important, because then if you recognize their humanity, they will give the best of themselves. That's simple. Recognize that you're working with human beings who some days can be tired, annoyed, frustrated, super happy, not available, having a package that comes and they need to go take it. And I think one of the issues I faced, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, is that sometimes in certain companies, they forget that you're a human being first. You're not just someone who is here to deliver for them to gain money. Because if you feel well in your life, you will be performing at work. If you're not feeling well in your life, you won't be 100% available and ready to support your team. And I think that's very important. And I'm leading by example, because that's, I think, how we should all be living it. Because if you don't show the example that it's fine to sometimes not being fine, and you're sharing with others, they will feel, as manager, they will feel more comfortable than to accept that sometimes they are not well, and that's okay. And tomorrow will be a better day, and let's go. So yeah, I think that's very important. One of the things that I did, for example, and I guess it's not maybe something that you should broadcast, but I was very transparent about my mental health. That was challenged in the past, that was challenged recently. I think we all hit the quarantine wall at some point. And I think just being transparent about that with everyone, people feel more comfortable then, because they realize that, okay, not everyone is superhuman. Even my boss is not superhuman, and she's transparent about that. So we will just create more bonds between the team, and then you feel more part of a community, and you're more willing to be, okay, we'll go through that together. Let's just, and I think that's very something which makes really the difference, that you recognize that you're working with other human beings who have stuff going on in their life that you're not necessarily aware of. Yeah, absolutely. And for translating that to the audience, right, in terms of people who are engineers in the teams at the moment, that's hopefully the kind of culture that they're working in, right? Because a lot of the stuff we're talking about, going outside your comfort zone, putting your hand up, going above and beyond, is difficult for everybody, and that culture that you described there hopefully will encourage that way of working, that way of people putting themselves out there. And I say it starts with individual contributors also. Everyone create the culture where they work. It's not just the manager, it's not just the people lead or product manager, it's everyone. So if everyone is doing the step to create this inclusive environment, this will help, and you can be the change basically of your environment. Yeah, love that. Love that. So we talked a lot about some soft skills. Deirdre, we have spoken before, obviously, about the benefits of hard skills, is that the right phrase? But we talk about education, academics. Some people would say, oh, do I need this qualification? Do I need this on my CV? Do I need this kind of education? And from your perspective, you've got a good take on actually recently experience some external education midway through your career to help take that next step, really. So it'd be good to talk about that and how you think it helped.
Yeah, so I was a lead journal manager, and then I was offered the opportunity while I was in the UK to do an apprenticeship to get a diploma in management. And so some of the topics I mentioned earlier about conflict resolution, they covered that, but also communication, things like project management and finance. But one of the big things for me was management of self, and how, and Jesse's touched on this, how you come across in a meeting or with your team can really impact them. So you don't want to be overly negative. You don't want to be, have a rose-tinted glasses either and be just Miss Positive all the time. And you want to be realistic, but you really want to just see how you're coming across to the team, getting feedback from the team, welcoming feedback. I've had some really good feedback from my team members of how I can improve things and how I can handle situations better. And that's amazing input for me. And when I was doing the course, I had to send around questionnaires to the team members and say, how am I doing this, and rate me. And sometimes I was like, woohoo, and other times I was like, okay, that's an area I need to focus on. And some of them were surprising. And so it really is kind of reflecting on your strengths and your weaknesses, and getting that external feedback as well, because what you think is a strength mightn't always be perceived as that way, or you maybe, and so really having that all-round review of who you are, how you do things, how you could do things better, what are the opportunities. We talked about, if you want to get into management, talk to your manager and see, well, what could I do to learn? But you can do that yourself by saying, look, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, opportunities, what are my threats. If you want to learn something, maybe a threat is that, look, you're really busy, you've got no time at all, but how do you then kind of work with others in your team? I mean, I think John mentioned, somebody shadowing somebody, personal development time, how can you make best use of that to develop those skills, turn your weaknesses into strengths?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of mindset, I'm sure is there for everybody deep down, but like actually you taking a step back out the hustle bustle of your day job and doing something externally, I guess helps reset and bring that kind of stuff back into it, right? We can all get lost in.
I mean, a lot of it you'll say is common sense and you know it all already, but sometimes it just makes you kind of step back and have a think about it and go, oh yeah, if I just did this, even time management, am I focusing on the right things, the important things that have short deadlines rather than the important things that might be, next week? Or are there things that, you should just delete from your inbox and forget about because you're never going to get around to them because they're always going to be at the bottom of your to-do list. So, little life skills are useful.
I'm not very good at that. I need to get better at that, I think, Deirdre. I might have to get some mentorship from you, yeah. But we're trying our best to finish on time, so about 5 minutes left. And Duncan, thank you so much. You've popped in a couple of added on context to some of the discussions around when we talked about the communication piece being really important, and Duncan mentions how actually some of these exercises that sound gimmicky, right, from the games, the escape room things we're doing at the moment, but actually as an engineer being part of them may help with that kind of communication skill, help you speak to people outside of your team and learn those skills. And then he's also backing up Jesse's point around the importance of encouraging team members and having those important conversations. So yeah, again, trying to create some practicality around it. If you're an engineer and you're feeling that way, the importance of putting your hand up and having those important conversations with the people around you. So I'd like to try and wrap up with some kind of practical advice, really, in terms of, like I say, 90% of the audience are probably in a position now where they want to look forward to what their career could be, if it's leadership, if it's whatever it is. And it'd be good to get some practical advice from the panel as what you would hopefully let people take away from this and go in action in their career. So not to put you all on the spot, but I'll start with you, Nikita, really. I know we've spoken about a few things, but what would be one of the...
Yeah, I think for my advice to anyone would be craft your own career. So don't kind of wait on an open role or position or someone to ask you, would you like to do this? Just be proactive. If there's something that you're interested in, go after it. And also to have open dialogue. So touching on good communication, touching on feedback, just make sure to continue to have open dialogue with your team and with your managers, so that you can really facilitate good teamwork, and that you can all kind of understand each other's perspectives.
Thank you.
Follow up on that one?
Yeah, please do.
So I think really don't try to pattern match other people's careers and copy how they do things. I think do what energizes you and makes you happy in your role. And like a lot of what Nikita was saying, like I follow a lot of those words too. So yeah.
Lovely. Thanks, John. Deirdre?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like as John was saying, there's so many routes to it. I mean, I started off in QA and EMC as well, and then moving to software development. While I was at Ovaro, I did some maternity leave cover and was a first-line support account manager for a while. And so it's, you can learn so much from doing other people's jobs and getting those perspectives. And really it's like, oh yeah, I now understand why this really frustrates you when the team that I'm actually, in most of the time does things like that. And you go, okay, I can take that away. I can figure out how we can fix it. And so, yeah, But it is about following your own path. And if you're not happy where you are, change it, figure out whether it's doing, a few courses on LinkedIn or Udemy, or just reading a few books, figuring out how you increase the skill sets on the, hopefully not having to, update the CV and change company, but sometimes that's necessary too, and not be afraid of it. And what Jane was saying about the course with the Code Insitute, a lot of the placement students I've been working with, they don't do that much coding. So they're doing computer courses, but they don't do that much coding. So, it's definitely, you don't have to feel like, oh, I didn't do a degree in computing to say, a career in coding or in any part of software development isn't for you.
Lovely, thank you. And Jessie?
Yeah, I want also to highlight one thing. You can get leadership skills not necessarily just in your team. Your passion outside, if you're part of an association and you're leading some project, you already are doing you are already a leader and you're already learning some skill there. So don't think that it necessarily comes only from your company and only from your day-to-day job. You have an infinity possibilities to learn new things outside of work as well, and that also, like John was saying, that fulfill you and nurture you. So that's really something important. And I agree with Nikita, sometimes you also have to carve yourself your own path. That's what I did, and you have to be proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. From a non-technical perspective, which is me, it's really interesting because we spoke for an hour here, and you're all engineers and the audience is all engineers, and actually we haven't spoke once about using the latest technology or writing the cleanest code, or do you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of the stuff we are talking about here is soft skills, and they are the skills that these kind of responsibilities that people may want, they're the kind of skills that you want to hone in on and you want to improve. You want to acknowledge what you do have, what you don't have, communication, listening, conflict management, X, Y, Z. So yeah, it's really interesting because if that's what the route you want to go down, they're the kind of skills that you want to take note of. So yeah, thank you ever so much, everybody. I think that is me now 2 minutes late. So Lucy, lovely Lucy, has put in the chat for everybody the link to the next Zoom session. So I would absolutely love everybody to be there. We'll only be there for half an hour, but it's a really good chance for all 50 plus of us to jump in smaller rooms, meet people you may not have met, do some old-fashioned networking, pretend there's beer and pizza as if we were in real life. But yeah, I'd love to see you all there, and please watch out for all our future Soda Social events, and watch out for the white paper from this event. And thank you ever so much to everyone involved. I will see you all in the new link.
Thanks everyone. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.